Hey everybody, I'm Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio. It's the 20th of September, 2023. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for listening. Maybe you're on the archives. Most people do listen to the show on the archives. And everything's archived over at ace-ed.org. That's the home website of the American Consortium for Equity in Education, ace-ed.org. And ace-ed.org. All right, we are the voice of the consortium, and we love talking to you. Almost every day we do this, and we do sometimes 2 times, 3 times a day, and we talk to you about all the things about education that we can in pre-K-12. And today we've got a very enjoyable show. A gentleman I've been talking to over the phone, his name is Nathan Provencio, and Nathaniel has won many awards, which we will talk about, as principal in Virginia, and he was principal of Minnieville Elementary in Prince William County, won an award there, took a Title I school, okay, and it became a Virginia Distinguished Title I school, became a national model professional learning community, and was the winner of the 2019 Richard Dufour PLC Award. And Mr. Provencio has been honored by the Washington Post, by his alma mater, George Mason, et cetera, and he's now working with school districts all over the country, helping them have the same success that he had. And today we're going to focus a lot on the importance of seeing your constituents, whoever they may be, if you're a school leader, in customer service. And that's what we're going to talk about with Nathaniel today. Please go over to our website, ace-ed.org. The podcast will be archived over there. And if you click on the podcast link, okay, you will see all the all the podcasts we've done over the last few years. It's all there for you. Just pop and listen. Everything's free over there. The magazine, Equity and Access Pre-K-12, our online journal is over there as well. The Excellence in Equity Awards is over there. Everything we do, it's all for you. It's all free at ace-ed.org. And without further ado, with me blabbing here, let me bring on Nathaniel. And there he is. Hi, Nathaniel.
Hey, Larry. Man? Good, man. Finally glad to connect with you, brother. Glad to connect with you.
And I'll explain that because we had the show scheduled about a month ago when we couldn't do it, and then we had a problem last week as well, just a scheduling thing, and we wound up that we're here today. So we finally got it together, Nathaniel, and I'm thrilled about all that. I hope I did a good job of introducing you to everybody. Anything you want to add to that?
Oh, man, it's one of the things that I crack up is, I was also part of the, bottom 5% in my graduating class that made the top 95% possible, so
that's great.
So I'm a bit of a late bloomer, but it's all good, man. I found my purpose, found my why, and
you did.
One of the things I tell kids all the time, and students, and even my own children, is like, it's everything that all the struggles that we have in life point you in the right direction for success. Our pain is usually the birthplace of our purpose. And, I just absolutely love, your show. I love the conversations about equity. And, and that's the reason why, I've been able to stay in education for, a couple decades and do what I do. It's because I genuinely believe that all kids have our last name. And do we treat our students as if they are our own family members? Do we make decisions for some kids, right, that we would make for our own kids? And the answer to that is an equity conversation. And as I'm blessed to be able to travel the country and work in schools, from affluent schools to private schools to charter schools to, high poverty schools. I mean, I get to see so much. And our issues and our things that we've got going on, we're very, very similar. There's not a lot of differences between the challenges that we have, but the big challenge is one of the things that I see, and hopefully we can talk about today, is how we are treating every student as that primary stakeholder, as if they have our own name. How our school leaders are treating our teachers as if they are our own family members, how our district supervisors are treating our principals as if they are, one of their own. And when we can take a step back and see each other, see the humanity in everybody, and start treating everyone as if, that whole golden rule thing, right?
It is.
I think we can move mountains, but we're not there yet. And I think that there is something to be said about creating cultures of service and experience, involvement and engagement, not only for students, but for our teachers and for our staff and for our principals and our family members. I think that might be something we need to lean into a little bit more.
Right. It is so important. And, you're an expert on this whole idea of customer service, and you have to see yourself doing that. And I hope that's taught, when people go get their master's degrees in administration, et cetera. And when you say customer service, okay, when you talk about this, Nathaniel, in your head, are you talking about the people inside the school, or are you also, is it also the community that you wish to serve, seeing them as customers as well? And I agree with you. You've got to, if people feel like they're being treated well, they're going to work a lot harder and a lot better. That includes both faculty, staff, and community. What's your thoughts? When you say customer, who are you referring to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to answer that question, but first I'm going to answer another question that you kind of put out, that you said that I hope that our school leaders are getting this training. They're not, Larry.
Yeah, I know.
They're not.
I knew that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. School leaders have had, I always crack up. I have more customer service training as a cart pusher at Walmart when I was 17, 18 years old than I ever had in my understudies or my master's in education and education leadership. So this is not something that's germane to our profession. We're not taught about how to cultivate an ecosystem in our schools that just brings out the life and the possibility. We don't run our schools like like places. It's more like institutions sometimes and not like experiences. So one of the things that I think about is like have a customer service mindset. So I'm going to start with the school principal because I know there's a lot of pressure on school principals, but the school principal has some of the most direct contact with all the customers in the organization. So first and foremost, the most primary customer that we serve are our students. They are our most precious customers. We have to serve them through not only meeting their, the needs of an individual student, but also giving them experiences that are memorable so that they want to come to school, so that they want to continue to talk about the great things that happens in the school. Larry, when you and if we're sitting at a bar somewhere having a cup of coffee or a little beverage or something, and we're talking about schools, we're not talking about the tests we took. We're not talking about the textbooks. We're not talking about the programs the teachers use. When you and I are chatting and having a laugh, we're talking about experiences. We're talking about the memories. We're talking about how we felt. That is what promotes great schools. Yes, we want to make sure that we're serving our students with excellent Tier 1 instruction. We want to make sure that we're giving our students exposure to great standards and making sure that they have the materials they need to do that. But we also have to meet them where they are. We have to make sure that our students, when we're serving them, we're not serving curriculum, we're serving students. We're not serving stuff. We're serving students. And I think that's a little bit of a disconnect I'm seeing right now as we're rushing to spend all this money to, accelerate learning through the pandemic. We spent all this federal money on stuff and programs and curriculum. And I'm kind of tired of hearing about these reading wars, like buy this program or buy this program.
Right.
Hold up. We need to start investing in students. We need to start figuring out how does a student learn? What is a student coming to our classroom with? And our principals need to be able to serve their staff so that they can serve their students, so that they can explore those unique gifts that our students are bringing, those funds of knowledge that our students are bringing to the school. So one of the things that the first and foremost thing we got to serve is our students, so that it's not only a great service with giving good instruction, but it's also a great experience about differentiating and providing those scaffolding supports to bring those standards to life for our kids. So primarily, it's the students that we want to serve. Then, as a principal, we have to serve our staff, man. I always used to say that, look, our teachers, we're the adopted parents of our teachers and our staff. And we have to treat them as if they are family. Like that third grade teacher, that fifth grade teacher, that PE teacher, that is someone's son. That is someone's daughter.
Huh.
That's someone's spouse, right? That's someone's granddaughter. That teacher might have been the first person in that person's family to go to college, right? And so they're doing the absolute best they can. And when teachers are successful, it's because they're in an ecosystem that makes sure that they do not work in isolation, that they have the supports, the needs, and the resources to do their job and to meet the needs of their students. Larry, I keep on coming across this statistic that I think it's roughly 33% of all first-year teachers leave within the first year. Like, they don't come back to teaching. And
yes,
the
it's
reason
too high,
why they're
way too high
leaving,
statistic.
way too high, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why they're leaving, they're not leaving the profession, they're leaving people. Because when they're in that school, they're having to do everything by themselves. And when teachers leave, they're leaving an ecosystem that did not support them as teachers, that did not support them as individuals. One of the things I do when I work with schools across the country, like the difference between high-achieving schools and lower-achieving schools is what John Hattie called collective teacher efficacy. But you have to support how teachers work collectively. And our first-year teachers, man, and some of our experienced teachers, they're doing so much by themselves. They're like independent contractors. And that is not how we're going to continue to promulgate schools of excellence. We cannot operate in a prairie school mindset, a one-room prairie house mindset. That is done, but Larry, that's still happening in schools after schools after schools, and we've got to stop it. And great leaders know how to cultivate that collective teacher efficacy, and that's one of the best ways to serve your staff, to see them as the hope in their family, to give them the supports and resources that they need, and to make sure that they work in a team approach to meet the needs of our students.
Yeah.
And then the third customer to really focus on is our parents and families.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I look at in Title I schools or economically challenged schools is that our parents and families are not involved like we need them to be. And I think it's because there has always been a generational and a historic mindset that parents send the kids to school and parents and families do what they need to do and ever the tween shall not meet. But when schools are really, really being effective, it's not just a Title I night. It's a Title I school year, right? It's a parent engagement school year. It's not just an event. It's an experience for our parents and families. And one of the challenges that I like to give district leaders and school principals is like, is this kind of school that you would want your child to go to? It's the Jonas Salk test, right? Yeah. Is this the kind of environment that you would want your own family to come in? And if it's not, change that environment. Invite your parents and families into, don't just chase that one mom around who's always making copies to sign your Title I improvement plan or your school improvement plan. Get as many parents as possible in that building, give them a seat at the table, and be transparent with what you're instructing. Be transparent with how you're teaching. Be transparent with the resources that you're using. Ask them questions how they can improve the school, because principals, it's not your school. You are a renter. It is the community school. You are just a placeholder and serving this community. So it's more the parents and the family school that it is yours, right? We're just holding the coffee cup, so to speak. And so what we've got to be able to do is have that mentality that we've got to create a place that all parents and families are just so proud to be able to send their kids. And to be just so proud that we would want our teachers to be in that school. So, in a nutshell, that's who we serve. But also, we can't do that unless we're serving. And this is going to sound a little crazy, but we also have to serve ourselves. I can't.
That
serve
doesn't sound
others.
crazy.
Right. I can't fill up others unless I'm filled up. And so one of the things I also have had to learn the hard way is that self-care is not something that is, in vogue, and like, ooh, self-care, whatever. I mean, that's a real thing. And we need to really, really take care of ourselves. We need to give ourselves permission to take those breaks. We need to give ourselves permission to use those leave days. That's honor to us. And we can't make anyone feel bad about taking some time to fill our cups up, because this is like a long journey. And kids are going to keep coming, communities are going to keep growing. And this is a not only a marathon, but a marathon of marathons. And we've got to make sure that we're first serving ourselves so we can serve others. So that kind of customer thinking, that customer service and experience mindset is something that we can I think we know it, but do we do it? Do we live
we got to
it? Are
do
we
it.
conscious
And my
about it?
question is, with all this, where does one start? You go into school districts all over the country. Okay, where do you tell them to start? Okay, because what you're saying is important. What you're saying is accurate. But where do they start with this? Do they take a survey?
Yeah,
whatever.
Well, you know what?
Tell me.
You've got so much information about the perception that's happening with your school. Like I look at 4 A's to really start peering into about how well your school is serving its customers and giving experience for your customers. So there's 4 A's that I look at. Okay, the first A is attendance. Now, I'm not just talking about student attendance, but that is part of it. So if you've got 180 days in a year, what does your attendance look like with your students? What does your attendance look like with your staff? What does your attendance look like with your parents and families? Or do you actually have customers coming into your doors, right? So what does the data show, right? If you have like 80% student attendance, your culture is not inviting for your students. If you've got teachers and staff members that are constantly calling out, you don't have you don't have a healthy environment. You have a place that people don't want to go to.
That's right.
If you've got parents and families where you've only got 5 parents showing up to your back to school night, or if you've only got 20 parents showing up to parent teacher conferences, you've got an environment that's a closed door mentality. And that's some hard data, some very quantitative data that you need to look at to see, do you actually have customers coming into your business? So that first A is attendance. The second A is academics. Your academic results are, for me, a direct correlation to the environment that you are providing for your students. If you've got low achievement, then you probably have low family engagement. If you have low achievement, you probably have low teacher engagement. If you have low achievement, you probably have low student engagement. So that data for me is a direct correlation to the kinds of support that you have from your community. If you've got high achievement, you probably have high engagement. If you have high achievement, you probably have high student engagement. So you see what I mean? So when you look at your data, there's a correlation between that. Now, I've worked in like charter schools and private schools where, parents and families send their money and they send their kid, right? I've seen it.
Sure.
And the achievement is high, but just because you have a high parent and family demographic doesn't mean you have exceptional achievement. Now, imagine if you had high, parent and family engagement, and you're doing everything you can to have high achievement. Oh, well, then you're just,
is achievement the third A? Is achievement the third A?
But, no. We're still on academics, right? But achievement with academics is still
just
there.
Checking A's,
Larry,
just checking A's.
Oh yeah, I know, right. So, but I've also seen school districts like the one that I served that didn't necessarily have a lot of parent engagement at the beginning, but we were working really, really hard to have high academic achievement. But once we started investing more in our parents and families to be part of our process and started really investing in them, our achievement grew exponentially. So that's the second A. So with first A is attendance, second A is achievement. The third A is attitude.
Second A is academics. Second A is academics.
Academics. Third A is attitudes, right?
Attitude.
Right. Attitude. There we go. We got the A's, right? So the third A is attitude.
There's 3. Okay. Good. Excellent.
That's right. So if I looked at your school and I go to this website called greatschools.org, I'm going to see a Yelp-style review about the perceptions that's going on with your school. You're going to either have a 1-star, a 2-star, a 3-star, or 4-star. If I go to a website called Niche, I think it's niche.com, I can see what parents and families are saying about your school. If I go to a website called schooldigger.org, I can see the kind of feedback that's happening at your school from a public perspective. If I'm buying a house in your community, I'll go to Zillow.com and I'll look at the address of your school and I'll see what people are saying about you, right? I'll go on your social media, as a school, and I'll look at your Facebook posts. I'll see what people are saying about your school. I'll go on your Twitter account or X account and I'll see what people are saying about your school. It used to be just word of mouth, right? The cul-de-sac moms, talking about the school. Now it's worldwide. So if you've got a negative perception, I'll know that you have a negative perception. So attitudes are very important. So how are we, when we have an event or we have an encounter with a family member, even if it's a negative encounter or if a positive encounter, we want to make sure that our parents and families are sharing the good word about their school. Like your brand is really, really important. Your school mystique is really, really important. And so if parents and families are being ambassadors, if parents and families are being ambassadors for the vision and mission that we have at our school, if our parents, families, and teachers and students even are being ambassadors, being missionaries for the mission that we have in our school, then those attitudes are going to be just insanely awesome. And I want to be a part of a winning organization, right? I want to be a part of a team that's winning, and I want my school to be winning. So that third A is the attitudes, and I think that's something important for school leaders to really think about and cultivate. Now, I'm not talking about putting a bunch of BS out there on social media when the reality is quite different, because if your reality is different than what you're sharing, that'll catch up to you very, very quick. So I'm talking about authentic experiences and sharing those things. Don't paint a facade. Just be real and actual, but be mindful about it. So that's the attitudes part. And then finally, advocacy. Like schools have resources to advocate for their community. Schools have resources to advocate for students. Schools have resources to advocate for their faculty. So what are the needs that, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are those bottom needs being taken care of by the school? Are we making sure that our parents and families and community have safe neighborhoods? Are we having conversations with the local police department? Are we making sure that our kids have food that they have access to? Are we making sure that they don't even have to worry about school supplies? Are we making sure that we're advocating for all the needs that our students and our faculty and our parents? Can we just make sure that they have what they need at quote unquote free and appropriate public education, so that they can be ready to learn? And oftentimes schools have missed opportunities to really listen to the needs of their community and muster resources to advocate. And here's what happens, Larry. When we advocate for our community, when we advocate for our kids, when we advocate for our teachers, when we advocate for our parents and families, they advocate for us. And that is one of the biggest disconnects I'm seeing right now with a lot of the visceral conversations that's happening and from different groups and these kinds of things. These parents are very upset, and they're advocating for themselves, but they're not necessarily advocating for their school. Why?
That's right.
I got to be honest. But why? Maybe the school missed an opportunity to advocate for them down the line. And when that happens over and over and over and over again, there's a possibility that, like, if you didn't advocate for us, then we're going to go in a total different direction and advocate against you. So there is the possibility that there were some missed conversations, and then when the pandemic exploded, right, then, everyone was already a boiler pot already, and that spilled over. So we don't want that to happen again. So what does our attendance look like at our school? What is our academic data telling us about our school? What is our attitudes look like about our school, and how are we advocating? You focus on those 4 A's, you've got a world-class customer service.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, Nathaniel, when you say advocate, I want to get down in the weeds a little bit on that. What do you mean? How are you advocating for parents, students, teachers? I think I get teachers, but just talk about give us an example of what you mean by advocating for the community, advocating for this. Do you mean speaking at Rotary? Do you mean you tell me what you mean? Yeah.
So sometimes when you just stop and listen you really, really learn. I'll give you a personal example of how I was able to shut up and just listen and actually learn something about advocating for my community. So real quick story, I was school supply shopping for my kids. I don't know if you've ever done school supply shopping. It's
1,000
awful.
years ago.
I hate it, right? And so, I've got 2 kids, so I think I was like a second-year principal or something. And so I'm at the big box store, and I'm got the school supply list for my kids' school, and, they have to buy all this stuff, USBs, markers, all this stuff. And I'm like complaining. I'm like, golly, guys, why are we spending, between the two of you, I'm spending $250 on school supplies. Plus I got to buy all the new clothes, and I got to get the Air Jordans for the son, and I'm complaining about all this from a dad's perspective. While I'm at that store complaining out loud, there's a young lady that's standing right there next to me. And we strike up a conversation, and she says, yeah, I'm spending all this money too. It's ridiculous. My kid's school also has a crazy school supply list. I got to put it all on credit card. I don't know how I can afford it. And I'm just like, word. And she's like, word. And we're just like having this great conversation. And then I asked her, well, where do your kids go to school? And she looked at me and said, well, my kids go to a new school called Minnieville Elementary.
Which is yours.
Which was my school. I was like, son of a biscuit.
Funny.
This is so embarrassing. So
that
I'm
hits
like,
you in the head. That hits you in the head.
It hit me right in the stomach, and I was just like, man, listen, I don't know if you know this, but
That's funny.
I'm the principal of this school. And she's like, what? And I'm just like, yeah. So this is what we did. I said, on Monday, I want you to come back to my school. I want you to meet with my guiding coalition. I want you to meet with my PTO person. And because we just had this conversation, I got this idea that none of our kids should ever have to pay for school supplies ever again.
No.
And she's like, really? It's like, yes, but I don't know how to do that. And I don't know if I have the funds for that. And I want you and I to share this story with our PTO and our guiding coalition.
That's a great story. It's a great story.
So we came, man. We had one of those awful cups of coffee. And from that day on, we created an opportunity to advocate for our parents and families because we were 80% free and reduced lunch, and we were already creating inequitable situations on the first day of school. Yes, you were. We had kids showing up in Gucci bags, and we had kids showing up with broken crayons in a brown paper sack. So we're already creating an inequitable situation because we've always done that. But until I got smacked in the stomach with a real conversation, and because I listened, I was able to advocate. And for as long as I was there, Larry, no kids had to pay for a backpack. No kids had to pay for any school supplies. They just showed up and they learned. So when we're open for those opportunities, we will learn, and that's how we can advocate. But if we're in our office with our door closed, micromanaging little fires and not being open to the inputs and the authentic needs of our community, then we can't advocate. So I always talk about an open door policy. It's like principals will say, yeah, I've got an open door policy. Cool. Whose door are we talking about? Well, I'm talking about my door. Okay, well, great. Well, if you're always waiting for people to come to your door, it's easy to have an open door policy. Principal, are you going to your community's doors, right? Do you have a doors open policy? And so when you start switching those little mindsets around, then you can listen, you can learn, and you can advocate.
I have to ask, and I know you're good at this, but what's the reaction? I assume you're talking to principals when you go out to do your professional development at school districts. You can explain that further if you want. But But what is their reaction as you give your ideas out there? And you're mostly talking to principals. Am I correct? Or
mostly talking to principals. But everything from keynotes, where I'm talking to 500 to 1,000 to 10 people, you know what I mean? Or if I'm talking directly with principals or district leaders, or if I'm coaching the teams, everyone's reaction is the same thing. When do I have time? It's the 5-word sentence that if I had $1 for every time I heard that, I could retire now, right? So when do I have time, Mr. Provencio, to advocate for my parents and families? When do I have time to meet the needs of my teachers and staff? When do I have time to meet the students where they are? Well, let me ask this question. What else is more important than that? It's not about adding something to your plate. This is the plate. Like, we are in a service industry. This is our plate. So you don't have the time not to do these things. And so what happens is,
what's the reaction
out
to
of
that?
touch.
Nathaniel, what's the reaction to that?
And then they're like, well, show me something that will give me an example. So it's like, I'll show you a billion examples. Here's an example when I was a principal. Here's an example with me as a parent. Here's an example that I saw this morning when I was walking into your school. When I walked into your school this morning, I was greeted as if the same way I was greeted if I were going into a prison. And they're like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, I had to walk to the door, right? And it says, visitors show ID, right? And I'm fumbling through my ID. And then instead of saying, good morning, Mr. Provencio, we're so excited to have you. We've been waiting for you. All I hear is ID. You know who else greets you with ID? The police officer that pulls you over. So right. I'm telling you this. I don't want to be at your school because you've already upset me. So I can just, one of these things that we look at is that we can look at customer service and experience through the lens of a customer. I'm a father. I was a teacher, so I get to see these things. So when do you have time not to? So then I'll ask this question. What's more important, serving the needs of a curriculum or serving the needs of kids? Okay? What's more important, meeting the demands of a program or meeting the demands of your people? You answer that question, and everyone's going to intuitively say, well, of course, kids, people, Okay, so then what is the evidence that you can show me that that's happening? And oftentimes, just by asking that question, schools will start to uncover the things that they actually are doing, but they were unaware of it. Let's codify those great things. Let's systemize those great things so that it can become part of a culture. It can be part of commitments. So that whole when do I have time, it's like that's just the reaction to any change. But let's pull that back and say, okay, so what is more important than meeting the needs of your students, your families, your teachers, and yourself?
And how are they doing? We got to wind down in a couple of minutes, but how are they doing? And this is a key question after you leave, because we all go through this, and we've all seen it with the professional development. Yours is excellent, by the way, provenprincipalllc.com. It's excellent.
Yeah.
But I'm always curious. Everybody's excited when you leave because you're saying good stuff, Nathaniel, okay? And everybody wants to do it. And, like everybody else, stuff goes by the wayside eventually, okay?
Yep.
And talk to me just about your follow-up, because I think people will be interested in that, because everything you're saying makes sense, okay? But it has to really happen for the long term. What are you hearing?
Yeah. You got to have accountability. The last thing that I want
and I know you
is
do.
to
I know you do, or you wouldn't be here. But I'm just curious what you're hearing over the long term. Yeah.
I tell people all the time, it's just like, I don't want you to walk out of here feeling inspired. Inspiration without action is a waste of time.
Thank you.
A jelly donut looks great. Like, oh, that jelly donut, I'm inspired to eat that jelly donut. And it's all glittery and shiny with sprinkles, and you eat it, and then 30 minutes later you go into a coma because you just feel bad about yourself because it wasn't sustaining. The last thing I want to be, man, in this work is a jelly donut. I want to be a protein shake. I'm trying to be a protein shake. So when schools work with me, the most important thing is listen, I don't have the answers. I've got some pretty cool experiences. I've got some pretty cool life lessons. I've got 23 years-ish, doing this work. I have the questions. And one of the things that I try to tell people is you get the answers by asking the right questions. And this is from principals to coaches to
Welcome
anyone.
to AI. Welcome to AI.
Yeah,
questions.
Exactly. So I don't want to be a sage on the stage, brother. I want to be a guide on the side. So how we can sustain these things is we got to make sure that if we're going to be investing in maybe someone outside your school organization to come in, this is not a one and done. And the one and dones that I have, I'll be honest with you, they're jelly donuts. They're inspirational. But if I can't sit there and hold your hand and help model the kinds of good questions that we need to ask our principals, help teams really cultivate their collective excellence, push a little bit harder, ask some questions, kind of lean into questions, sit in awkwardness sometimes. Sometimes we just need someone a little bit outside the organization to help us move the organization forward.
Different set of eyes.
Because we have blinders on. And so when I'm working with people, I tell you, it's just like the universe put you and me together for a reason. There's 97,000 schools in America. For some reason, the universe brought us together. And so let's use this opportunity for me to help you grow, and I want to grow from you too. I want to be a missionary of hope for your school. I want to be a cross-pollinator when I'm going to that next school, to be able to say, this school over here, they were struggling. They had a culture that was falling apart, but they worked with me, they worked with each other, and they cultivated an ecosystem of excellence. This is their success story. They made a mess their message, and now that message is this school's mission. So let me share those stories of excellence. So I kind of see myself as a cross-pollinator when I'm working with these schools. And so now we have models of excellence that we can share. And so if we do that one school at a time, one principal at a time, one team at a time, one teacher at a time, Larry, one student at a time, one family at a time, we will move mountains.
You will indeed. You will indeed. And you're going to make that mountain. If the mountain doesn't come to you, you got to go to the mountain. It's that simple. It's that open door thing. You got it. Nathaniel, this was great. I loved listening to you. Okay, good luck. And I have everything linked. I have everything linked up here on site. It's at provenprincipalllc.com. This is Nathan Provencio. And you were going to say, real quick?
Oh, God bless you. God bless you, man. Thanks a lot.
Man.
Keep treating every kid like they've got your last name.
You got it, man. I love that line. It's a great line, and I thank you, Nathaniel. Have a good day. Thanks for being here.
You too, man. Take care.
Thanks. Bye. Well, you heard it here. Everything's linked. Is good. Okay? So check it out. Okay? ProvenPrincipalLLC.com. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org, and if you ever need me, I'm at Larry at ace-ed.org. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Nathaniel.